Hi, I'm Steve, and welcome to the Vicenta Talks podcast, where we talk to our community about navigating tech change and making forward-thinking choices. What we want to explore on today's podcast is the sort of things that charities are getting up to and the sort of concerns that they have with tech and how they can use tech more successfully in their operations. So listen, Morya, thank you very much for coming down on this horribly rainy day here in Castle Marwood, but welcome, and it's lovely to see you.
Thank you.
What'd be good is tell us a little bit about what you're doing at the moment. What are you up to and what's filling your day?
Yes, so as you know, I work in the Learning and Development Department, supporting with training. So I'm looking a lot at what are the needs in charities, what are the pressures. And I do a sort of dual role because not only am I a trainer, but I'm also a big advocate of IT. I worked in the IT industry for a long time. So whenever I see a charity looking at, you know, what they're facing, the challenges, and there's a whole host of challenges across the piece that many people will be familiar with, you know, the reduction in funding, the constant looking for bids, the pressure to find donations when we're all in a economic crunch these days. You know, prices going up, there's not a whole load of money sitting around for people to donate. So they've got those challenges, they've got the challenges of time. So whenever I'm talking to them, I'm thinking, well, some of these problems you can solve by adding some more IT. But the big challenge is when they've already got a very full schedule, how do they do that while keeping all of their delivery going? So they've got so many, they're very, very similar to SMEs actually. They have very similar challenges.
I'd agree with you.
Because they've got, particularly ones that are scaling, they're looking all the time to be delivering quality as well as looking to the future. What's the next bit that they need to pay attention to?
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting you say that. So one of the things I think is interesting is, and I'm not saying that SMEs should waste money, but actually is when an organisation makes the wrong step, particularly with IT and technical things, it's going to cost them money. It may be an investment that they actually don't actually reap the benefit from. Actually, it's doubly compounded for a charity, isn't it? Because the whole psyche is to spend every single pound on the service user. And so any single pound that went in the direction of actually improving the charity and then actually found that it was a wrong route and you'd not get the benefit is almost heartfelt within the entire charity, isn't it?
I was going to say exactly the same thing. It's almost more painful because you know that every bit of money you spend somewhere else is money that is taken away from the delivery of the services. But I think that is so key, but for both types of organisation, but as you say, it's even more painful to make those mistakes with IT, and it's a big investment, and it's not just we're going to add some new software. You've then got to go through the process of training everybody, making sure everybody's, because the worst thing to do is have this big, you know,
put
Salesforce in or something as your CRM, and then everybody's struggling with it.
Indeed.
And you're not actually getting the benefit from it.
So what's really interesting is that, you know, one of the reasons why I was quite excited to get you on the podcast was because in your role in Community First, you get to see lots of different charities at lots of different stages. Some of those are emerging, and we've been on some chats together, haven't we, with some of the charities, and they're just evolving, and then some are a little bit more mature, and they're starting to get into some of the sort of mid-stage issues that charities might go through, which is really interesting. So that was one of the things that it's like you've got this sort of broad view of how they are approaching things. So what do you think let's deal with the smaller ones at this point in time, the ones that are emerging. Where do you think the founders and the trustees of those type of charities are in terms of their headspace when it comes to the use of technology? What would you say
It's a very varied picture. Certainly, it seems to me there's less interest in IT. They typically don't have, and I've been a trustee at a lovely charity, and the reason they invited me to be a trustee is because they didn't have anybody with a kind of understanding of tech and how it could be used. So they wanted to add that to their trustees, so they had somebody who could advise them.
Yeah, so that's a good step, yeah.
I think it is a good step, and I also think there's a lot of, for me, I think there's a lot of benefit in looking at sort of fractional services across the piece. And one of the fractional services that could be really, really useful for small or potentially growing charities is to have somebody who would come in as an independent IT advisor. So I've seen this in lots of different charities that I've worked with over the years, not just Community First, that they go out looking for a technical solution, and then the conversations they're having are with people who are selling a solution.
Yeah.
And those people obviously have got,
invested,
an agenda
interested. Yeah.
in saying this is how it can work for you. Now, of course, the best IT solutions, those people doing the sales, they're looking for a win-win. That's the ethical way of doing it. But of course, some are, maybe not as versed in understanding what the challenges of a charity are. And maybe they're not really providing the right kind of advice. So to have an independent person, so I think it's great for a charity to add a trustee who's got experience in IT so that they can look at the best solution, or have somebody, like yourself, who could come in and say, well, we'll just do a quick consultancy for you on what it looks like and what we might suggest, because there's a lot of, I'm a big fan of open source. I think there's a lot of things charities can do for very little money or no money. And when they're in that early stages,
it's really tight.
That's what you need. You need to have a solution that's open source and then potentially migrate into. But there's so many moving parts, and I do think fear comes into it a lot, particularly now, because we've got so many scams going on, and there's all of this, focus on things like cybersecurity, which has been around for a long time. But when the scams get more,
and unfortunately, charities are targets. They're seen as an organisation that doesn't spend so much on their IT, and so therefore probably doesn't spend so much on cybersecurity, and therefore they become a much lower common denominator in terms of getting in. But actually, the damage that can be done across the charity, and we can wipe a charity out. I mean, in terms of just reputational damage, loss of sensitive data, stuff like that. That is starting, I think, to focus. A lot of minds of charities of all shapes and sizes.
Yes, I think that's so true. What I try and do when I'm talking about IT to people, and I've doing those workshops around getting the most out of automation, getting the most out of generative AI, is really to reduce the kind of fear factor and say, well, these are the steps you put in place. You have a systematic approach to protection, and you do as much as you can. For a small charity that doesn't necessarily have the budget to do the kind of gold-plated standard of cybersecurity, there are still processes that they can put in place, simple things that they must put in place to reduce that sense of
fear. I mean, Microsoft recently withdrew its free charity licensing support, which is sad, but that's what they've done. But actually, the charity licensing pricing for what is their sort of top flight products, which have built-in things, built-in security into it, is still, it's less than a cup of coffee, and so definitely worth. We always advocate to try and go to that particular level, because there's enough security baked in at that level, even for a small charity to immediately be less of a target. But I think also, and we've been on that journey with Community First, and I know you've been part of that, and particularly with things like the training rollout, is to ensure that the data, the information that you're going to use as a charity in decision making, but also in actually promoting the charity, is secure, is in one place. Again, you're using SharePoint. Most charities are using a Microsoft product somewhere within the charity, and if they're doing that, then actually, SharePoint's free, so it becomes part of the bundle, and it can be well secured, and making sure that charities understand that is almost the complete cornerstone. Get that right, and all of the other things that you just talked about, like starting to use generative AI and things like that, become an awful lot more safer. What we're seeing is charities jumping in there, not realising that actually in the large language model world, and particularly the free large language model world, that data is going out and it's sitting out there, and if you gave it meeting notes, or you gave it ideas, or you gave it plans, then actually if you search for those things, you're probably going to find them, because that's been adopted and subsumed by the large language model. For the next person that comes along and says, tell me how I do this, it's going to serve up. And if you say, give me some examples, one of those examples might be the document that you actually shared with that large language model. It's something that we're finding is not so well understood in the charity market. What would your thoughts be there?
Well, it's got huge potential, obviously.
Massive.
We were talking about charities that are trying to do so many things with the time that they've got. AI, I'm a big advocate for using generative AI as your first draft. The key phrase is first draft.
Yeah.
And you can ask it things without giving too much of your own information away. So you don't put the accounting year-end figures in and say analyse this.
No.
You don't do those sorts of things. But you can do great research, and if you ask it to do things like do the research and give you links to where they found that information, you can then use that as a very powerful research document that gets you started much faster than just a general Google search.
Yeah.
So you've got those links, you can go in and check.
Yeah, you have to do the checking. That's really important.
I'm noticing so many interesting resistance to using these sort of things. They'll say, I had an example of that recently where I sent something out saying, well, this is nice because Gemini has got this right. And there was one phrase in it that was incorrect, and they came back and said, no, wow, they've got it wrong. Yes, but they've got a lot of it right. So that tells you exactly how to use it. You're going to use this to help you speed up the process of creating a process, speed up the process of doing research on your audience, on what the challenges are in your area, the demographics.
Yeah.
It's really, really useful for that.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that particularly, certainly the charities that we work with and talk to are quite interested in is two things: is to be able to sort of have to map a grant writing against the audience. When we were talking about this when we were doing your training sessions, and you kindly invited us on, and we spoke about some of the things that could be important. And it's a case of that find your target that you would like to go and ask for money, and have AI research that target, so that the things that particular organisation that is in the fund giving mode as part of their CSP or whatever they do, is you're triggering the things that that they are absolutely interested in, rather than just throwing an application at the wall. You're targeting it, and that's a fantastic way of using AI to just research your audience, as you quite rightly said, and then actually get them to get AI to draft that first proposal, which then needs the human touch, because everybody now can spot an AI written thing, which I think is to the detriment of a fundraising in that respect, but can speed up and actually make that much more probably more predictable in terms of getting a better response, I think.
I think predictable is a good word, though, because when you read a AI generated text, there is a predictability about it. It's like the low hanging fruit.
Yes.
There's nothing amazing. There's nothing in there. Typically, if you know something about the topic area, there's nothing that's going to blow your mind. Oh, I never knew that about that. So it's really very much the first draft. The things that, we can come up with as humans innovating is obviously way beyond what a large language model will do.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes there's this sense that we're all being replaced. Well, we're not being replaced,
not a chance.
because there's just not.
No.
It's not going to come up with anything mind-blowing, which is what small businesses and charities need. They need to find that innovation. They need to find that thing that sets them apart. And AI is not going to do that. But it's really good for doing things like write me a process for X, Y, and Z. And it can get you that text very quickly and save you doing lots of writing. Although I'm very interested in this research they're finding in schools about the use of technology and how it's actually encouraging us to be not as smart as we were. So that's a little bit of a worry. Losing confidence with our own writing ability is potentially something we've got to watch out for, which is why I would stress first draft, rewrite it, get some more nuance in there, get some personality in there, because there isn't really. I mean, yes, you can give it lots of prompts, lots of context, but it still has that very well written, no particular surprises in the sentence structure or the way the ideas flow. There's no kind of spark in it.
Yeah, I absolutely get what you're saying there. I'm in the camp that I think that a lot of people are scared about AI and where it might go. But even, for example, the use of mobile phones in schools and stuff like that, very controversial and this right now. But actually, I think that society is starting to get a grips of where this sort of technology is for the good and for the bad. And we might. It would be nice, because I think some of that direction of travel is in the wrong way. And as you say, just using it blindly to do something is definitely not what I think AI should be used for. But actually, I think that there's an inflection point coming up, I think, which is that people will want to do things differently. And, when you talk about putting personality onto that first draft, absolutely, I think people still buy from people. I think that people still want to communicate with people. And if we look in the charity space, you've got to, I think it's only real stories, it's only the real measures that and outcomes of a charity that resonate with people to then go, I want to be, I think, as you said right at the beginning, you want to be part of it. I want to, I want to be involved. I want to help that particular charity. And I think one of the other places that AI can help there is, impact analysis, impact statements of what something that charity is doing or has done has moved the goalpost by X, and here are the results that are now tangible. Those real tangible results also embedded into documents, I think, is something that is a real powerful use of AI that charities should definitely grab hold of and understand that is a way of being able to get lots of data about, as you talked about, the demographics of who they're reaching and the impacts on those demographics is definitely something that would help in that respect. So, yeah, I think it is definitely a force for the good, but I think that as you said, still a lot of fright, still a lot of unknown capabilities.
Very early in the journey.
Very early in the journey.
And what we're doing with most of our courses, where possible, particularly the online ones, we're building in a little AI element to it.
Brilliant.
So, for instance, recently we did a course on fundraising. So I asked everybody to open up their favourite AI and asked them to start by put this prompt in. I generated a prompt for them. Obviously, they've got the option to use their own, but start with creating a prompt. And if you want to create a different prompt, you can get AI to help you do that, of course. So they put that in, got the demographics of their area, and then in the same context, then moved on to what would be fundraising ideas for this charity doing this type of work in this area.
Wow.
And for me, a great joy of all of this is to have people come back after they've done 5 minutes. In fact, one of the big challenges is to get them to come back because they're having such a lovely time.
Wow.
Like, okay, let's come back. Let's come back. And they're all, yeah, I'll just be there. And they're really
already working it out.
Absolutely loving it. And to see them go, I had no idea it could do this. Had no idea it would be this useful.
Yeah.
So just encouraging people, just take 5 minutes, just step in and give it a go.
Yeah, safe.
And remember, you're only creating a first draft for your eyes only. You don't need to worry that you're oversharing or you're, just have a little play with it and see. And it's so lovely to see the eyes light up when they see what it can do. And sometimes I've seen groups be really surprised at what the demographic is in their area.
Right.
So that's really interesting. So
right.
That, again, it's part of the issue of having so little time. You're just constantly looking at what's in front of you. So if you have a couple of minutes in a training course where you can say, well, let's have a little play with AI, do your demographics, then from there ask it, fundraising, whatever question you've got.
It's a good little solid way of working that forward, isn't it?
It gives them time to just experience it in a safe space. Somebody's asked them to do it. They've got the time because they've booked out that 2-hour session or whatever they've got. So we're working to give people those little moments. Not a huge amount of time. It's not all AI driven, but at least it gives people who maybe haven't had a lot of time to just play with it and see what it can do.
Yeah.
So reducing the fear while talking about
possibilities.
So here's the downside. So you don't put names in, you don't put people's addresses in. That seems obvious, but sometimes when people are working at speed, they realise something they've asked it to summarise. Meeting notes, really good. Drop it in, get it summarised, but obviously you do have to be careful about putting people's names and
also meeting notes that you don't want shared. That's a real key, because that's an easy one. The moment you put that meeting note up there, then it can be searched. So we've seen some examples where that has happened, and people say, no, I don't think it's okay. I think we've shared that internally, and we've done a search on AI and actually just played them back the notes, and they've gone, oh my goodness.
It's very tricky, isn't it? Because of course things are changing so fast.
Yes.
It's like you open your phone up and it's changed the interface, and the thing that you knew how to find is somewhere else now. And,
somebody decided it would be a good idea to change it all around. It's pretty frustrating.
All of it is moving so fast.
Yeah.
And AI and the rules, a lot of the rules, how does it come up with the items it comes up with? So if you do a search on demographics, it's going to use maybe 5 or 6 for a particular 5 or 6 different websites, and they're probably good websites like the National Statistics website and things like that, so they make sense. But how does it choose, when it's a broader thing, how does it choose which websites to go to and which information to give you? What's the algorithm behind that? And I don't know. I could probably search around and find out, but we're in very interesting times. So.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is obviously there's bad actors out there that are starting to populate the AI with with just bad information because they think it's a funny idea to do that in that respect. So unfortunately, it will crawl all of that, and it will suggest that that's also research that might be good. Which is so it is definitely that. Again, you said earlier to check, absolutely verify where that data is to make sure that it's exactly as you'd expect it to be before you go forward. So that brings me on to a bit of a different subject, really, and that is that security around all this, security of data, who has access to data. Again, I know we've done an awful lot of work at CFIS. I mean, Tim put an intro. It was, I think he was interviewed by one of the local papers down here on the south coast about cybersecurity and charities. He was putting a sort of a watchword warning out to charities to ensure that cybersecurity was something that was looked at rather than ignored, which was a fantastic, fantastic piece for him to do. What do you when you start to talk about use for data, are you talking about the need to be more visible, share data, stuff like that? What do you see in your journeys around different charities in terms of their understanding about the dangers and willingness to spend money to ensure that they become more protected? What's your view there, Morya?
I think it's a really difficult one. So there's some groups that are networks of charities that I've been working with that I'm delighted about, because I think that's really going to be a way forward for charities to collaborate together and share some of the costs, share some of the work that they do, back to the sort of fractional design.
Yeah.
That's very that's coming to the fore more. But in terms of those conversations, bringing those network of people together, they're so focused on their primary activity, which is providing support for those who are really in need.
Yeah.
So that's really their focus. They come together and they pop down their email addresses and they share them all, and they create these networks of, and in some ways I think that's great, because some of the fear of GDPR, not that I'm suggesting they do anything that's incorrect, but at the same time it can be a great barrier to getting work done, and just making the connections you need. I'd agree. And of course GDPR, you have to have a reason to store that data, but you have to have consent, and consent is what in many cases is the thing that's holding these connections together, that agreement to work together. But in terms of cybersecurity, I mean, I'm going to make a mental note to check in with that particular network and see how they're all doing in terms of cybersecurity, because I think investment in that, particularly now when we are at this, stepping out point in terms of this massive change in how IT. I mean, it's like the whole .com thing all over again.
Yep.
Things are going to be really accelerating, and if you look at all of these tools like Microsoft Automate, a nice sort of playground of different apps that you can put together and automate your processes, the power of that is immense.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's lots of other products out there that you could, like Zapier will allow you to pull things together. And once you start doing those sorts of things, so I would say the message that I'd like to give to charities is get your basics done. Get the cybersecurity in, because if you don't have that, this sort of wonderful playground of opportunity and automation and speeding things up and using generative AI will be, you'll have this nagging doubt all the time.
Yes.
What if?
Yeah, no.
So the number of people who really understand how all those bits come together and what the implications are are few, and I would say charities just typically don't have. I mean, obviously the larger ones have got their own IT departments, so they've got their, but there's a whole host of charities that have put things in place. Maybe they've had some advice, maybe they haven't had advice, maybe they're using the knowledge they had from the corporate job that they did many years ago.
Yeah.
So having that sort of safe playground to really explore these things is really going to reduce the stress of it, which could be enormous for some charities.
I think you're right, because we've always advocated to all organisations, but particularly charities, is from a cybersecurity perspective, is this zero trust. And again, we talked about that on some of the things that we did. So this is a case of trust nobody. And so don't give everybody access and then go, oh, and we'll restrict yours. You actually say you need to authenticate, and we need to know what you want and where it is and why you want that information before you get to it. And you're right. And there's some fantastic, Microsoft tooling. There's lots of stuff within those boundaries which makes it a little bit more simpler for that to be enacted by particularly small charities. Big charities can use it as well, but small charities don't have to use the headspace quite as much. Mm. But actually, you're right in that there's stuff like Zapier. There's other tools. There's some CRMs that you then almost need to poke the holes through, and it's making sure that the conversation is happening. Is the what if I poke the hole through my zero trust? If I poke a hole through my cybersecurity because I want to use this, what does it mean? So it's almost it's looking at the unintended consequences of the tool. I think
that's really key. What does it mean? So many of us do things with our IT, and we really aren't asking that question. And it's not even coming into our consciousness that we should maybe think through does that action, what's the consequences of that action. But it's such a fast moving piece, isn't it? I mean,
it is. And you shouldn't really use, and if you need to use that CRM and there is a particular fundraising tool or whatever it might be, then it's about use it, but make sure that you are mitigating the risk rather than just blowing a hole in what you've got from a security standpoint, because that's the hole that the hackers are looking to get in, which is important. So that's a message that we try and play quite strongly out there in the charity space, because I think it is, as you say, people not quite as well focused down on the consequences of
I think
using
it's
different
very
tools.
Difficult to get the balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we don't want to make people feel so worried that they just want to throw all technology away and not get the benefit from it. But at the same time, not be in a place where they feel so out of touch with what the consequences could be that every time they're using it, they're slightly anxious about it. It's not it's not a good place to be, where you're constantly worried that maybe something could be going, you're not really sure, and things could be going awry, and you won't find out till it's too late.
Yeah.
But equally, there's a huge opportunity to speed things up, create processes that support all of the things that need to happen in a charity, in a small business, like your recruitment processes, standardising all of those. IT is really good for all of that. Having a process that you can step through, it's very good for that. So I see some, reticence in terms of being nervous about things such as generative AI, or just the whole sort of general nervousness about IT and all of the potential dangers there. And on the other side, the great potential for improvement and processes and saving time and things like that. But not everybody has the time to actually understand what the possibilities are.
No.
So automation is a great example. There's huge amount of time that can be saved. Relatively simple Microsoft automation, creating. We've done quite a lot of this recently for our internal e-learning pieces. And we've got an automation that once people have completed the assessment, if they get the right score, it generates a certificate for them and emails it to them,
Yeah.
and then notes that all in
All in the
seconds.
system. Yeah.
Really quick. But if you don't know
good use
those
of it.
things are out there,
No, absolutely right.
there's no way that you could actually decide what strategy is going to work for you.
So it sounds. I mean, it's really positive. So as a real user, but obviously with an informed IT background. So I mean, I think the message that you're really sending out here is do it safely. Don't be frightened about technology, and open your eyes to how technology can to advance and improve what you as a charity are trying to do, and the results will come forward. I think that's what I'm hearing. So it's been fantastic talking to you about that today, and thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. As you can see, I love a bit of IT, so it's always fun to talk about the possibilities. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Vicenza Talks podcast. If you've enjoyed the discussion, hit subscribe for more conversation with our community on cybersecurity, AI strategy, and future-focused business thinking. And if you've got questions or want to continue the chat, comment below or email me at sales@vicenza.com.